Today I'm going to explain an activity that you're going to do on participation in ritual. Ritual is an occasion where people use symbolic objects, words, or actions to express what is deeply important to them. You will have done this chapter last week. This week then, you did the chapter on participation. Participation in this instance means being actively involved in an act of worship. What I want you to do for this activity is think of any time that you were involved in any form of ritual that is religious, whether you were part of the ritual or just observed it. I want you to think about the elements that took part in that type of ritual. And we'll go through the questions in a minute that should give you an idea of how to structure your answer. When you are now going to think about a time where you participated in ritual, I want you to think about any ritual you've ever seen or taken part of, regardless of what religion you are. I've included some examples of some ritual participation in this slide. So there's both participation in a mosque, participation in a synagogue, and participation in a church. Here we have other examples of rituals. So different types of weddings. So we have a wedding in a mosque, a wedding in a synagogue, and a wedding in a church. So if any of you have ever been to a wedding, you could talk about this as an example of when you observed a ritual, because I assume none of you are married. On this slide, I've included some examples of different types of initiation ceremonies in the different world religions. So I've included baptism and Iquiqua here. So if any of you have ever been to either of those ceremonies, you could also talk about them as when you observed a ritual, or maybe you participated in one yourself. Maybe you were a little bit older when you got baptized, and you could talk about that here as well. So here I have the activity I now want you to do. So I want you to describe either a liturgical or non-liturgical service you've either participated in that has elements of worship, or that you just observed. So maybe you weren't directly involved in this particular ritual, but you watched it and saw it actually take place. Once you have an idea of the ritual that you are going to talk about, I want you to answer the following questions. So question 1, what is the place of worship? So where did it take place? Was it a mosque, a church, a synagogue, wherever it was, where did it actually take place? Now this place might not have been an actual place of worship. It could have been, for example, if you were baptized in a river, that would also be where it took place. What day of the week? So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it was. Is it a special occasion? So if you're going to simply talk about just mass or prayer in the mosque, that probably isn't a specific special occasion. If you're going to talk about a wedding, an Iquiqua, a baptism, they would be a special occasion. 4, who was there? So was it a group of people you didn't know? Was it family gathered there? So that's an easy enough one to answer. Who led the act of worship? So who was the person in charge, or who kind of put forward the type of worship, or who was kind of leading the whole process? You can answer that. Was there a sacred text being used? So was there a Bible, a Quran, a Torah, some kind of sacred book used during the ceremony? There might not have been, but if there was, say yes or no there and say which one it was. Is there any type of ceremonial clothing being worn? So either by the people participating in the ritual or by the person leading the ritual. So was the person in charge wearing a particular type of clothing? Were the people who were in the congregation or in the actual room, were they wearing a particular type of clothing? You can answer that there as well. Was there any music being performed? So was there a choir? Was there music in the background? Was there singing? And describe that to me as well, please. And list 2 ritual actions being performed during the service. Now, ritual actions will depend very greatly on the type of service or worship that you actually observed, but it could be things like taking the Eucharist, having water poured over your head, having a piece of hair cut if it was an Iquiqua, like something, or well, 2 things that are very specific to that type of ritual. So 2 things that happened during that type of ritual. Who performed those actions? So who was the person who actually went forward and did those particular actions? So describe who it was. And is there any meaning behind them? So what is the meaning of pouring water over the baby's head in a baptism? Or what is the meaning of saying vows in a wedding? Or what is the meaning of taking Eucharist if you're talking about Mass? And why do you get Holy Communion? What is the meaning behind those? And then just little 2 reflection questions then. So what was most memorable about that type of service? So what did you remember? What moments stuck out to you the most? And then lastly then, what made an impression on you? So was it something that you really have very strong memory of, maybe changed the way you thought about something or had an effect on you directly? Okay, so I want you to answer those 13 questions. The place to answer them will be on Google Classroom and you will find the link there.